I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30. The skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Odyssey. I am Wayne, joined as always by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. Tiffany, how's it going, ma'am?
It's going well. How are you doing?
Doing fan-freaking-tastic. Just amazing. How about yourself? I've already asked you that.
Honey, it's only Tuesday.
You're right. You're right. All right. Excited about the show tonight. Got our guests backstage ready to go. Let's do all this fun stuff before we get to them. Guys, if you have not done so already, I'd appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. Sure would appreciate that. Tell your friends, share it with everybody, and just keep us going in the right direction. We would appreciate it.
And if you guys have had an encounter and you would like to be a guest with me and Wayne, if you would just contact us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com, and you can contact me at Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com.
All right. I want to ask everybody to head over to paranormalworldproductions.com. Check out the website over there. Check all the other shows out in the studio. Sasquatch Odyssey, of course. Paranormal Odyssey. The Basement Hangouts, Kentucky X-Files, pick you up some merch, all of that cool stuff. We would appreciate it if you would go and check them out.
And I have a feeling tonight you guys are going to want to ask a lot of questions, and that is perfectly fine with us. We do ask that you put them in all capital letters so that we can see them, put them up on the screen, and our guests can see them as well.
And lastly, for me, remind everybody about Manimal Research on Facebook, my organization that I founded back in 2019, getting out in the field, doing research into Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Ask you to, if you're on Facebook, and we all are, let's be honest, might as well be a member of our group. Head over there and see what we've got going on. We would appreciate it.
And I know we tell you every show, but it's important every show because we would like to get this guy's message out. Reaper Apparel, like I said, he has great messages, and we can save you 10% off of any purchase using the promo code Paranormal Odyssey. So head over there, check out all his stuff. He has great stuff on that site and save you some money.
Very good. Very, very, very good. All right. We're getting better at that.
We are. We are killing it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, we got a couple things we want to talk about. What do you want to cover tonight, Tiffany? What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about our membership plan that you have put together. There is, if you have, I'm not sure about how Android handles this, but I know if you have an Apple phone, like I have an Apple phone, everybody in my family has an Apple phone. When you go to Paranormal Odyssey's YouTube on the app, it doesn't show up. So what you have to do is go to YouTube via Safari or Chrome. And if you go to Paranormal Odyssey on there, we now have a membership plan, and it starts at $199 a month. So you have your beginning level is Paranormal Odyssey Freaky, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think it's Paranormal Odyssey Freak.
Freak, yes. And then the second tier is Paranormal Odyssey Extra Freak or Extra Freaky. And then the third tier is Paranormal Odyssey Super Freak. And that gives you like a whole barrage of things. But unfortunately, and I went today to try to research it, and there's countless users that have posted videos all the way back 2 years ago telling people how to get on there and do the memberships if you have an Apple. So, but yeah, y'all need to check that out because that's good stuff. There's good stuff. And again, $199 a month. It starts.
Yeah, the $199 a month. Some people are offering, like $20, $30 a month. And I don't really see what the point is in all of that. But $199 is our lowest one, and with that, you get a couple of things. And the main thing is you get a members only show, like an extra 30-minute show with me and Tiffany. So you'll get that extra and access to some early release stuff as well. And then the next one is, what was it, $4.99? And then the next one is
$4.99.
yeah. Don't expect anybody, a whole lot of people to join that, but we got it there for you guys. If you would like to show some support to the show and help us out, we would certainly appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. Something else I want to hit on before we get to our guests. I was talking with my buddy Craig. He's a member of my research organization, Manmore. He gets out and does a lot of hiking in his area, and he's the one that actually sent me the picture of the giant boulder on the tree that we talked about for so long and was so controversial. He was asking me, and maybe you guys can help him. He keeps finding scat samples, and this might be pretty gross to show, but he sent me some pictures, and I think that it's just super interesting. He needs somewhere to send this stuff to have analyzed. But I mean, I don't know how well you can see it, but yeah, that's corn in there. It looks good size. And
that's big.
Sent me that one for his shoe for comparison. I don't know of any animal. That looks human.
Well, because bears, don't they? And I'm not going to get on here and profess to know every animal, what their scat looks like. But bears, don't they just kind of.
I think bears are like pellets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never watched a bear poop.
I've never watched a bear poop either.
I hear they poop in the woods, but I've never seen it. But I thought that was interesting, and maybe he wants to send that in somewhere and get it analyzed. So if anybody can point us in the right direction, we would appreciate it. All right, let's talk about our guests tonight. They, like we said, they are backstage. We got Mr. Science Bob and Lala are backstage and ready to go. They are part of Spaced Out Radio, or Science Bob does a show over there, and Layla does a couple other shows. She is a medium, and Science Bob, I guess name speaks for itself. He's more of a scientist, I guess. We're going to have these guys on. Got a couple of pictures that they sent that we're going to talk about, and we will let them explain a little bit more what they do and where you can find them. And if you are ready, Tiffany, I'll bring them on.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'm absolutely ready. Bring them on.
All right, Bob.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
Good.
We're doing well.
You're coming to us
thank you
from Maryland this evening, correct?
That's correct.
Very cool.
Water.
What's that?
We're near the water.
We're about 30 minutes from Baltimore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, guys, if you would tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do and how you got your start in doing it. And we'll do ladies first, if you don't mind, Lala.
Okay. Thank you. I was born psychic. My dad was psychic, but he really specialized in something called Reiki. He called it healing of the hands, but he healed people. And we both had experiences with crafts following us wherever we moved, here and there, throughout our lives. But he tried teaching me how to use my abilities, but I kind of pushed it away for most of my life. Because I wanted to be normal. My mom wanted me to be normal. So I was trying to please everybody. And I was super shy. So that was hard too. But a few years ago, I lost my parents and my son's father. And I decided I couldn't really find anybody to help me. So I decided to stop hiding and start helping other people that lost others they loved. And that led me to finding Bob. I would fall asleep listening to SOR. I didn't know who they were. My phone clicked onto it on YouTube and I didn't click it, okay?
And this happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would just fall asleep listening, and I saw him and the spirits do that pushing. They go, okay, you have to talk to him. I don't know why, but you have to. And so his mom passed away a couple months later, and it all started from there. He believed in me, and that helped me quite a bit with getting over a lot of my issues and doubts. And we created a business. And now we help people with spirits, and also people have been abducted by other beings, and we help that way. It's very validating for other people.
Yeah,
that and she's a powerful remote viewer.
Yeah. Before we get to Bob, Lala, if you could quickly, I was reading a little bit of the bio that you sent me, and you talked a little bit about finding your neighbor's grave.
Yeah. So my neighbor, I called her Grandma Cheyenne, and she passed away. I was about 5. And where we live, there is a graveyard that has, he says about, I took him there. He says a couple thousand.
It's over 10,000 graves. It's huge.
It's in Baltimore. It's really, really big. And my parents didn't know where she was buried. So we went there to try to find her. And they were walking over here, and I heard her say my name in my ear. And she goes, I'm over here. And I felt led to this one stone. And I put my hand on it. I couldn't read it, but I put my hand on it. I go, she's over here. And when my parents come over, they're like, oh my God. My mom was freaked out a little bit, but my dad was like, okay, it's time. I started talking to her about what's going on. So, wow. But it was nice. It wasn't scary.
Yeah, I thought that story was cool as hell, and I wanted you to share it.
Thank you.
Her life is, I see dead people always.
All right, Bob, your turn, buddy.
So when I was young, very young, just under a year, I had 3 cardiac arrests. So I had NDEs before I ever could remember the NDEs. My parents were told I wasn't going to make it, and if I did, I'd be a vegetable. And I turned out to recover completely in a week. So we moved to Alabama when I was 3 years old. I woke up one morning. I don't remember anything weird before that, but when I woke up at 3 one morning, I could walk out. I was kind of cognizant, had a good memory, and I grabbed books off the shelf and read to my mother and her best friend, and I had not been taught how to read. So at 10 years old, I just got into everything and was like unbelievable. And I built a telescope. I became a ham radio operator. And that just kind of stuff went on. And I just took off as this geek in a small town in Alabama of 1,200 people. So I stood out, as you can imagine. I memorized Gray's Anatomy from cover to cover, so everybody thought I was going to be a doctor. So I graduated from high school. I went to school at the University of Alabama, and I was going into pre-med. Grabbed my girlfriend, who was from the same hometown, to drive home on a Friday. And we had an hour and a half of missing time. Both of us remember the missing time. Now, I had no idea what that meant at the time, and I completely forgot about it. Okay, so, but 3 weeks after that, I stopped saying Roll Tide and started saying War Eagle, and I stopped wanting to be a doctor. I became a mathematician and an engineer, and that was like that. Whatever happened to me in that missing time, it totally changed my direction so that I am what I am today, have been since I was 18 years old, headed in this direction. I worked for the government a lot, and worked for the national laboratories at Sandia, and that's out there with the other nuclear weapons labs. And I worked there for a year and decided I wanted to go back to school. I went to school at Brown and got a doctorate in mathematics. So I left there, worked in the intelligence community for decades, retired and went to Virginia Tech, joined the faculty, was chief scientist of a center at Virginia Tech. And while I was there, I was still connected to the intelligence community, and I started hearing rumors about UFOs and other stuff. The rumor intelligence was active. So I'd heard an interview of Christopher Bledsoe, who lives in North Carolina. He's written a book called UFOs of God, and I went to visit him before he wrote the book. And we went outside and observed the sky and saw UFOs and 40-foot orbs and flashing things in the sky and purple auras. And purple aura vanished. And as soon as it vanished, he said, okay, they're gone. We can go inside. We're done for the night. So we went in, and I went home, and a hitchhiker followed me home. I had apports of water, like an invisible entity had a water pistol and was shooting me in the face with it in my house. So squirted me in the face, and I finally figured out this followed me home, and they want something from me because I saw orbs outside too. Anyway, so I called up Chris, told him I would help him with something he wanted help with, which was to give his first ever public talk about his UFO experiences, and I helped him write the slides for it and went to the conference with him. So that the stuff stopped, and later on I retired from Virginia Tech. But before I retired, I had heart attacks. And before I went to see Chris, I had heart attacks. But after going to him, I had a checkup with my cardiologist before I left there and moved. And the cardiologist told me that all vestiges of my heart attack had disappeared, that I had 100% cardiac response, and he couldn't tell there was anything wrong with my heart. So it was kind of a miracle cure. So I retired, and I began having these weird experiences in Alabama. And I found her, she found me on Facebook. Facebook friended me. And one day in April of 2020, she told me my mother was going to pass. I went to see my mother. She was put on hospice. Her advanced directive was invoked, and she would rally and then fade and rally and fade. But during the rallies, she would talk to my deceased relatives. And she told me that she was going to pass, and that after she passed, she would give me a reading. Says, I'm not weird. I don't want money. I'm not after anything, but I'm supposed to do this.
I said it nicer than
that, by the way. She did. I'm trying to tell a story fast. So anyway, I went back home after the funeral and all that stuff, and I contacted her. Says, okay, give me the reading. I'm curious. I'm doubtful, but I'm curious. No, I'm a scientist and a skeptic. So she started doing a reading, and it took about 1 minute. And I knew for a fact a woman she had never met, never talked to, didn't know what she looked like, didn't know her name, Pat had passed, was talking to her and telling her things that only my mother and I could know. And just to make darn sure, she told Lala things that my mother knew that I didn't know. I asked my brothers and they didn't know. But we reached out to family and friends and they confirmed every single thing she told me. That took about a month. And after that, I was convinced, and I, being a scientist, my curiosity was all fired up. So we began investigating all of her abilities, and she began telling me, I let her tell the stories about what she experienced. But I knew immediately that she could contact spirits, aliens, and had been abducted. And I'll let her tell the story about how I interpreted them as abductions.
Yeah, please do, Lola.
The bruises?
No, the dreams.
Oh, so when my whole life, how I react to spirits, I still get nervous sometimes because the energy's a lot. With aliens, I've always been extremely numb, which is weird because I have anxiety in general. So I would have these dreams. Sometimes I'd wake up and feel what I was dreaming. And I kept it to myself for years, really. And about me being on a table and having surgery on me and just weird beings around me. Because although I'm an experiencer, I never looked into it. I was really numb to everything. And so I explained everything to him, and he goes, that's the exact thing you said you dreamed, people have experienced. It's common. You're not weird, But I guess they make it seem like it's a dream so that you sound silly if you talk about it, or you doubt yourself. But it made me feel better. It was it opened up a whole new world for me. Like, oh crap, this really is happening. Because I would wake up even now with weird bruises on me. It's just,
Yeah,
I
I
have an
love.
implant. It's weird.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I've only had a couple of chances to interview people that were abducted or feel like they were abducted. You're like my third, maybe the fourth, and I love talking to people like that. And I like to get as much detail as I can. Can you talk about anything else that you remember from these? I guess they weren't dreams.
No,
From
they're
these
not. They're
being.
not dreams.
Can you remember any other details?
I know that they would say, "Don't let her see," and I would black out and go either wake up or go to another part of the ship inside, and I'd be holding kids in my hand, two boys in my hands.
Do
I know
human
one.
boys?
Yes,
Or hybrid boys.
They looked. Yeah, they were maybe 3 years old, but I know one time I was dreaming I was in a barn, and I looked over, and on each side were a bunch of other women around my age laying on a wooden bench like I was, but they were asleep. And then I looked up, and there was something. He says it's a reptilian. I didn't know what they were. I just described what it looked like. And it was standing in front of me. And when I woke up, nobody was in the house. I woke up to something being inappropriate, like extremely, and I felt everything. And nobody was there. Nothing was in front of me. And I kept that to myself too. But he says that has happened to a lot of people.
And so every woman who's been abducted by a reptilian is used by them in the way she is talking. And all of them test new people by getting details, and she gave them the exact details that all of them say they used to test whether people's experiences are real or whether or not they're faking it. So, and how I know her abductions are not fake. We live together now in Maryland, and she's been abducted and has weird bruises on her body, which appear overnight and are gone in a couple of days. Triangle bruises, hypodermic marks, scoop mark in her eye. She is being abducted. And I always get up like Farmer Dale crack of dawn, I always oversleep 3 hours whenever she's abducted.
Really?
Yeah, every time, Wayne.
But it's weird because for a few months before I wake up with a bruise, they're very active. So we'll get videos of little crafts or little being. One time we got a being in the front yard. And when I wake up from a bruise, they go away for a couple of months. So this is the second time it's happened. And then they came back and they were lighting up the roof and the neighbor's tree. And then I woke up with really weird 2 bruises with dots in the center of them. And then they went away.
Just let me add quickly. We're getting alarmed. We're getting alarmed now because she had 3 weird pictures show up on her phone and a video she didn't do that has electronic voice phenomenon in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I remember correct, Lala, recently you had something like this happen to you. I remember I saw it on Facebook. You had posted some, I don't remember, there were bruises or like little small parts on your body, right?
Yeah, bruises on my arm. And the way I am, I will keep a bruise for months. This thing and the other one went away within 3 days.
Yep, gone.
And they were real
no sign
dark.
in 3 days.
Yeah. But it was, I didn't hit it on anything because after I lost my family, I became hyper aware of my body and health and stuff like that. I didn't hit it on anything. And even if I did, I don't know what would have made that design on my arm. It doesn't make sense.
Let me tell one more story, and then you guys, and we'll answer questions. You guys run with it. But this story is kind of important. We moved in here together after knowing each other for months, and we began immediately having poltergeist activities, knocks on the walls, things being moved, stuff knocked off shelves, and so forth and so on. So I put up a security camera inside the house. One of them was pointed at the front door. And in the middle of the night, while everyone was asleep, something in the hall clicked on the light, and this shadow thing, walked in front of the camera. Now, when it turned on the light, it went from night mode to color camera, and it found motion, so it started recording. And you could see something on the video, not quite make it out, but you could tell it was there. But as clear as day, there was a voice on the phone, and it was her. She recognized it immediately as her deceased boyfriend's voice.
Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hello, Xander," and that's our son's name. So it was nice.
And after that, the kind of poltergeist stuff came way down because we had recognized he was here.
Yeah.
And that he was here looking after his son.
Okay, it's interesting that you described it as poltergeist stuff. So you guys feel like you're dealing with spirits as well as UFOs.
We're dealing with everything. It's just amazing.
I call them to us. And anybody can do it. You have to have good intentions because they can definitely tell. And it takes time. When I first started, when we moved here, it just looked like stars zigzagging around. And then I kept talking to them. And after a few months, they'd get closer and closer until eventually they came down on our porch and moved the camera where they wanted it to go so that we could see them light up the neighbor's roof with their craft. I mean, it's amazing.
We see stuff around our house being illuminated from above down. And we have pictures and videos of surveillance craft flying over, and they have no wings, no rockets, no rotors, nothing. And you can see these things reflect the lights if she's using a flash camera or reflect other things as they fly by. And they are clear craft. I had a digital video forensics expert look at these videos and say that is a true craft.
From MUFON.
And she's from MUFON, and she looked at it and says, "This is real. It's not fake." We've seen craft that are all the way up in orbit on our cameras. They're huge. They're thousands of meters across because we can see them in the sky, and they're up in orbit because you can see it's middle of the night, it's dark, and we can see the sun on one side and shadow on the other. And the only way things are illuminated by the sun in the middle of the night is to be way up in the sky in orbit. You just see everything here.
We got our first audience question for you tonight. It's from Dr. John Baranchuk. He asks, how do you explain spirit's ability to influence things in our world?
It's a simple answer, but it's all energy. They can manipulate whatever they want, because that's what we are. That's what's around us. It's hard for us because we aren't taught that's how the world really is. But they can flicker lights, materialize, speak to us. It's really interesting how strong they are.
As a scientist with training in physics and as a practicing electrical engineer doing communications, I can tell you that there is being discovered now the relationship between consciousness and physics that is being discovered right now. There's a cognitive scientist at the University of California at Irvine who is showing right now how consciousness is being connected to physics. And Dean Radin at the Noetic Institute is showing that consciousness can influence quantum experiments. So there is a connection. We don't know the equations yet, but we know it's there.
That's interesting. That's really, really interesting. I want to share
May I say something to Mr. Duke?
Please do.
Mr. Duke, almost every time we're on, orbs will fly in front of us and people see them in the video. So we do have good energy around us. And take a look at the video. You'll probably see it like that one. They fly in front of us when we get on these cameras for whatever reason.
And also, thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for flying. We're happy you're here.
No, thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, it's interesting you started talking about that because I was getting ready to pull this picture up, and that,
Yeah.
I mean, would you call that an orb?
Yes, absolutely. So that one, I believe, came towards me and then started swirling backwards, and it was blinking a little bit. They're all a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly why yet, but that one was special. I think it was one of our family members. So.
I think people think we're weird having one of these cameras in our bedroom, but they are flying through the air all night long.
It's not expensive, and it's really fun.
We have blink cameras in there,
Yep.
and it captures those things all night long.
Yeah. I got a question here. Do y'all think aliens are time travelers?
I think, given what I understand now about the foundational construction of the universe, time is an illusion. And so if you're up there with them, they can go anywhere they want in time.
Portals
through portals.
And we have video of a portal opening up in our backyard. The light swung around it and then shot out.
Craft came out.
It was awesome.
We've seen multiple portals open with craft come out and fly a bit across the sky, and a portal open and they disappear.
And anybody can see this. You don't have to be our Facebook friend. It's open to the public to see all of this.
Yep. We have hundreds of pieces of evidence and anybody can look. We do not want to keep this secret. We're not trying to make money on it. Anybody can look.
So you guys have actually, with your own two eyes, physically seen a portal open up and a craft come out of it?
Yep.
I saw a portal when I was in my 20s. It was a little light, really bright, and it got real long and narrow, and a shadow man came out of it and slid across the wall into a darker room, and then it went whoop, and sucked back into the wall. And I think that was an alien. I don't know, because I was really numb with that too. I'm not sure what do you guys think shadow people are exactly? Because I don't know.
I've heard of them.
This thing right here is hard to see. Yeah, there you go. That's my Psionics night vision camera, and we see all sorts of stuff in our sky with it live, and we video.
Well, see, I was going to ask you, as soon as you said that you saw the portal open up and then you saw the shadow come out of it, I was going to ask you if you had seen anything else other than crafts or anything else come out of that.
Oh,
and then you said you saw the shadow.
We have one video. It's an orb that shoots down, and it's a bunch of light, but it's shaped like the head of a man with shoulders. And that's the one that moved the camera. And then it went back into an orb and shot off back into the sky.
It literally comes down, hits the deck. You can hear it hitting the deck, and the deck glows really big, bright, dims down, and you can see the shape of a humanoid as energy. It grabs the camera, turns the camera, goes back into the bright orb, and takes off. That video is in our collection, and anybody's welcome to see it.
And I always make a joke that we're too dense to hear what they wanted, so they came and did it themselves. So
they wanted us to see this weird stuff that was going on our neighbors' roofs, and we had the camera pointed in the wrong direction. They pointed it in the right direction. And since then, we've seen them come down on our neighbors' roofs.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Damn. So
Now,
what
do your neighbors say? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
We do not tell our neighbors
I'm too
anything.
nervous.
Well, I didn't know.
We live in a gated community with a homeowners association, and I'm afraid if I told our neighbors, we'd be out of here in a heartbeat.
I'm assuming they don't talk to you about it either.
No.
I don't think they know it's happening.
So do you guys have any thoughts to why y'all? I'm trying to think of a better way to ask that, but this kind of stuff is not happening to everybody.
Did you grab the picture of the alien-looking face inside of blue smoke?
I don't know if I did or not. I don't know if I got that one.
Okay, well, anyway, so if people can go find it in our collection of stuff. Okay, so one night we were on the deck, and she had my great big Canon digital camera, and she said, she told me to hand it to her. She wanted to take a picture of something. She held it up, not at the sky, but at the ground across our yard from our back deck, and went click. And I looked at the photo, and it's full of smoke that we could not see with our eyes. And I could see what looked like a face in it.
And an orb.
And an orb. So I did a bunch of different color filters in it. When I filtered out everything but the blue, this alien face just pops right out. And the next night, they came and spoke to her in her head while she was in the bedroom and I was out here. And they told us stuff they wanted us to do.
Like soft disclosure.
Help with soft disclosure that they are here.
A certain amount of time.
We have technical stuff we're supposed to be doing, but they want us to help expose them slowly.
But I also have an implant that I've seen it in a metal detector. I've had it for over 20 years in my upper left thigh. It's about the size of a piece of rice. I shouldn't have it there. I never fell, didn't have surgery. There's no mark. And I found out by accident that I had it. And I think that they monitor me and people like me. Because even when I was little, I would have dreams about crafts going over my head in the backyard. And I didn't know what they were until years later. I saw them in a movie and I go, oh, I always see them in my dreams, So I guess they pick a whole bunch of different people that they come to and they monitor. Maybe they test on us. I don't know.
So one day she kept having these headaches, and they were around some of these things were going on with her implants. So I grabbed a trifield meter, put it on RF right next to her head, and she was transmitting radio power. That video is in our collection, where she moved it across in her forehead, and the meter goes up to 1/10 of a milliwatt. Human beings do not emit 1/10 of a milliwatt of transmitted power. So she has something inside her body that's transmitting to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while y'all were explaining that, I went on and grabbed a couple more pictures to see if either of these are ones you were talking about.
The one I was telling you, that's a craft that's way up in orbit. That's it.
Yeah.
I showed that to the deputy director of Space Force.
Okay,
that being right there came in from that fog into our house.
And then that morning I woke up with a triangle bruise on my arm.
And I woke up 3 hours late.
Yeah.
So it abducted her that night. So anyway, the deputy of Space Force wanted that picture of that craft. And I can tell from the part of it being illuminated and the part of it that's in shadow that thing is in orbit.
And that came back. I wanted to know more about it. It came back a month or two.
3.5 weeks later.
And then at a different angle, but it was the same one. It's amazing.
The deputy director of Space Force grabbed those 2 pictures from me like it was they classified information and took them off to be analyzed. And of course, I never heard from him.
Well, that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, they don't give you anything. It's all one way into the government.
Yep. And then it gets disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go ahead and pop another.
Oh,
one.
this is great. You tell the story. This is your photo.
I've been told that they're called skyfish. They're not a bug. They're definitely, they act like spirits. They can go through walls. They can sense, like if I'm nervous about them, they'll go away. And when I'm ready, I say, okay, and they come back.
Well,
I was surprised by that.
Look at this picture. You can see it's in color. This is not involving a flash. We could see these things.
Mm-hmm.
So she got a bunch of them on her side. This is her out my truck passenger window. And I got one on the other side out of my truck driver window. And it's one's to the left and one's to the right. And above us that same night, we got this massive orb that lit up the ground all around us. And I got a picture of it coming down.
And they hide, all these beings hide very well. But when you find one, it's like they get excited and they start showing up more, and then something new will come around.
I mean, it's called skyfish because these things look like they're swimming through water and they're not fish. So they're some kind of cryptid, but I don't know what they're called. I just know that they're beautiful to the naked eye.
Never heard of that skyfish.
Yeah, I haven't either. It's very fascinating.
Thank you.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah. I wasn't. I didn't. I thought maybe it was like some kind of crafts moving quickly or something like that. I couldn't tell what that was, but that's neat.
They were moving pretty slow because we had plenty of time to react.
Okay.
Well,
I think this only other one I have here is just this collage of different.
This is great.
I couldn't believe this was way up in the stars. I couldn't believe I saw a cross in the sky. And that made me think, is that where this started with religion? Did people see this cross? I mean, it's amazing. And that in the center, on the very top, that is the same craft at a different angle that I was talking about.
And the one right below it is the other angle. That same craft came back 3.5 weeks apart. Mm-hmm. If you go down to the next row, to right there, just to the right of those cryptids, that's the surveillance craft that flies around our house. We have 24 pictures of that thing over months. And there's no rotor, there's no rocket exhaust, there's no prop, it makes no sound, and we get that picture. And you can see it's fully resolved.
Now, guys, let me ask you this. This is something that has been a topic on our show over the last month or so. Have you ever heard the term star people?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And every Native American, that's part of their religion or their path.
To your knowledge, what is the star people?
They sound to us like non-human intelligences that come down from the sky. And they have visited Native American populations for thousands of years. They draw pictures of them in pictographs on the rock walls in the Southwest.
Wow. Because we talked about it several times. Tiffany, a couple of her grandkids, she has 4 grandsons, and they will come to her house and talk about seeing star people. Like, there's the star people.
Wow. They're being visited.
Mm-hmm.
Or talked to by them, one or the other.
Yeah, Grayson's too. Now, they were over here today, and he didn't say anything about Starman, nothing like that. But I will tell you, he was playing with something. We were all witnesses to it. He would run out of the kitchen, And he would peek around into the foyer, and then he would take off running towards it, and then he would run away from it. I mean, he was playing with something, and I tried to record it to send it to Wayne, but you know how kids are. As soon as you bring the camera out,
Yes.
stop.
Or as soon as you brought the camera out, the entity left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is true too.
Well, Lala, let me ask you this question to you. And I've interviewed several mediums on this program several times. And the question I always ask them is, are we all born with this ability? Do you believe?
I do. I say it's kind of like cooking. Everybody can cook. Some people microwave. Some people are chefs. If that makes any sense.
I'm a
But-
microwave.
And she's a cordon bleu chef.
Yeah, we are Chef Mike. My husband's not, but we are Chef Mike.
But yeah, I think, when we're children, we have a lot more experiences because it isn't embedded in us that it's wrong or stupid or fake. I think it's a lot of us push it away in order to survive in our normal society.
I don't know if you've heard of him or not, Daniel Jackson. He lives out in Arizona. I had him on, and I liked the way he described it. There's an echo. Do y'all hear that echo?
Yes.
I don't know where that is coming from.
I hear it too.
But
I'm not sure.
the way Daniel described it is we're all born with it, and then life kind of throws a bleach on it. As you get older and life happens, it just bleaches the ability out for most of us.
I think that the neuroplasticity in your brain with the conditioning from your parents, friends, relatives, etc., to ignore that stuff, your brain changes to learn to exclude it. Because you're getting negative feedback for seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, I say a lot of people get stronger abilities after a trauma. So I think it kind of knocks all that out, and it's weird. I didn't know that before, but a lot of people have been telling me the past year about that.
Okay.
Oh, in your settings.
Yeah. We'll look into that. All right, guys. Y'all know I'm a Bigfoot guy. We talked a little bit about that before. People have talked about there being a connection between Sasquatch and UFOs. Now, if you're not familiar with it, that's fine. If you don't know anything, that's fine. But I did want to ask, are you aware of it, and what's your opinion?
Very aware of it. Anybody that's watched Spaced Out Radio knows that Dave Scott, who is the owner and main host on Spaced Out Radio, goes hunting Bigfoot every weekend with his son. And so David Politis has been on that show, and David Politis, in case people are watching Can-Am Missing regularly, knows he is now openly stating that Bigfoot is related to aliens, and that these missing people in these national parks look like they're being taken through portals. So I think that there's a definite connection. And here's how I think Bigfoot people can see there's probably some truth to that. There are lots of cases where they leave behind footprints. But many of those cases, the footprints that are left are only on one side of a body. So they only see the right side or only see the left side. So to me, that says one side is here and the other side is walking on the other side of the portal. So they leave no footprint on this side if the other foot's in the portal. So they're walking along the edge of a portal. And I think the reason they disappear when people try to find them is they go back through a portal.
So that makes me wonder, because you always hear of people finding one Bigfoot footprint, but nothing else.
Yep. They go in and out of portals. So that would be a portal opening. They want to take 1 foot outside, take a peek, and then go back in.
That would explain it.
Interesting.
So I didn't know that. David Politis is on record now saying that that's what he thinks.
Can-Am stuff is reason that UFOs and aliens and Bigfoot. And, David Politis, He wrote a bunch of the big books in the early days of serious groups doing Bigfoot hunting. He wrote a bunch of books about it. So he's been into Bigfoot for a long time.
Yeah, he was a Bigfoot guy. Yeah, but he doesn't, when he does his movies, his books and everything, he never comes out and says Bigfoot though.
He
You
does.
know,
He that and UFOs.
that's really interesting. I didn't know that because the way he's always talked and the way he's like led you to believe, that's what he was getting at. But I find it interesting that now he's coming out and saying it.
But when you go to these conferences out west in Oregon, Washington, and Montana, etc., he talks openly.
Okay. All right. Let's put this out here. Dr. John Baranchuk. I guess this is more of a comment. Where is it at? My theory is the head trauma kills cells in the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe inhibits our brain, and when damaged, certain abilities are no longer inhibited.
I believe trauma makes changes. It's a near-death experience level trauma makes changes because people come back and suddenly they can talk and see spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mentioned his name is Dr. John Baranchuk, but he's a psychologist, but he's got his PhD in neuropsychology, something like that. So he's a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
All right, guys. We've got about 10 more minutes or so. We can go a little over if we need to, but I would like to hear if y'all have any other stories, kind of creepy, odd stuff that's happened to you that you've experienced over the years. Either one of you.
Tell about your UFOs
Which one?
in the clouds and over your car.
Okay. Well, real quick, something happened recently that kind of creeped me out, but I'm sure it was nice. Downstairs in the basement, something spoke to his, what is it, Google Voice,
Home device,
and picked a specific song to play after we had just watched a scary demonic movie. So that kind of creeped me out a little bit. But the UFO, so it was a couple of years ago, and I was getting coffee with a friend. We kept seeing these, what we thought were fireballs going over the car. We didn't know what they were, so we decided to drive back home. And as I'm driving, this is at night, as I'm driving, a helicopter with a spotlight shines its light on a huge cloud. And in that cloud is a massive, it must have been a mothership, I guess you'd call it, UFO. It was black metal, but I only saw a part of the bottom. I mean, this thing was like a football field big. And I remember it looked like a bunch of really big pipes intertwining with each other on the bottom. And they were so wide. They were as wide as the body of the helicopter. So that's how big this thing was. And I drove under it. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember taking my friend home. She doesn't remember any of it. It was just really odd. But, and the other one that's interesting is over my parents' home. It was probably as big as maybe like 3 feet around and orange orbs. There were 5 of them that appeared and went to the shape of a V. And I go, Dad, do you, like, me and my dad were best friends. Like, Dad, do you see this? And he looks up. He was helping me take the trash out. And he, real robotically, he said, no. And then he turned around and walked in the house and didn't come out. Now, that wasn't like him because he was super sweet. And I looked back up at him. And one at a time, they went away. And I don't remember anything after that. And, you know, my dad and I, we never even talked about it. That's what was weird, too. It was, and I don't remember going in the house or anything.
So we were driving home, the two of us, one night from eating out at Cracker Barrel, and we were coming down the 4-lane highway, and I look up through her sunroof, and I see a triangle UFO directly above us. Now the road winds, but the UFO stayed right above us. That means it was following us because the road went back and forth, but it stayed right on top of the car. And I says, I see a triangle UFO. It ain't more than 500 feet above us. and then a helicopter comes from the military base, and the thing was flying along like that, and it goes, turns around and goes back the other way. I say, turn around. It went the other way. She went through a median, turned around, and that took about 15 seconds. By the time we turned around, the helicopter was still there, but the UFO was long gone. It had gone to the horizon in 15 seconds.
Mm.
So we see stuff here. I mean, it's just all the time. And I don't feel any fear. Do you feel it? We don't feel any fear.
Not yet.
Not yet for any reason.
Well, that kind of leads to this question. We got a couple questions here I want to get in before we get out of here. Carson's asking, are the aliens or star people good or bad, and how many types? Do you have any idea?
I used to think there were maybe 2 or 3 different types, but there's probably hundreds of different types.
Seems like there's lots. Some people say 60, some people say 70 are known to the government. Now, I don't have that personal experience. She's seen reptilians. We've both seen this big gray. So I don't know. We know there's more than one.
And also, I like to say that they're like humans. Some humans are kind and some aren't. So
Right.
it's a mix. I believe you should always, if you're trying to call them to you, please always say, I only want the loving ones with good intentions for me, that I'm protected, and so on. And nothing negative is allowed around me. So treat it like you would a spirit, calling a spirit to you.
Okay. All right, we got one more from Alan Lassiter, Facebook user, coming to us from Facebook. He asks, and I've heard this too. He's always heard that President Eisenhower signed a pact with the aliens that they were allowed to take so many people per year, so in order for them not to invade us. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, wow.
Yes, I've heard it throughout UFO circles for years. I've seen proof, but I have heard that claim.
In order not to invade us?
And there was a guy at a UFO conference that said he was there when they took the video of it, and he could see Eisenhower walk down the runway to where the UFO was parked.
Yeah, one of my favorite shows is American Horror Story. And I think either last season or the season before, they did a thing on doing that where they actually had someone playing Eisenhower, and that was the subject matter of it. And that's how I learned about it. But come to find out, that's people actually claim it.
His great granddaughter Laura is a huge UFO person.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take a couple minutes and tell everybody where they can find y'all. I know y'all have got a few things going on, but yeah, go ahead and promote anything that you'd like to.
If you would like a reading, it's Lala Bright, LLC.com. And if you just want to talk to us, if you have pictures or experiences and you need somebody to talk to, it's Lala Bright on Facebook and Lala Bright 59 on Twitter.
And everybody can see the URL for the website below our names on the screen. It's lalabrightllc.com.
Okay. And Bob, you want to tell them about Spaced Out Radio when you're on and all
Sure.
that?
I'll be on Wednesday night. I'm the second Wednesday of every month. It's the Science Bob segment. And this week, Michael Dean Masters is talking about his theory that most of the aliens we see are time travelers from the future.
Yeah, we had somebody ask about time travel earlier. So that's interesting. Yep. Guys, send me links to all of your stuff, and I will be happy to include them in the show notes, because I always take the audio from these shows and upload them to the podcast, Paranormal Odyssey, and I have a much larger audience on the podcast than I do here.
Yep.
So if you send me the links, I'll be happy to include it.
I'll grab them and send them to you on Messenger. We have them stored.
Sounds good. Guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to hang out. I really appreciate it. This was a good stuff.
And if anybody wants to see her on her own show, it's coming up in 30 minutes. Grizzly on the Hunts channel, and it's Lala's show. They can see the advertisement on Grizzly on the Hunts space on YouTube.
I'm interviewing people and I'm nervous.
Yeah, she's got 4. She's got 4 big time. You remember Betty and Barney Hill with their abductees?
Yeah.
And so, but they, a bunch of people know her and them, and they're going to be on there. And
Oh, wow.
Deborah Cobble was in the book The Intruders, and then the movie Intruders was based on her life. She's on there tonight. It's going to be an interesting show, and she's got to interview him, so she's nervous.
Yeah, well, you'll do great. Everybody, y'all go check it out.
Thank you.
All right, guys, y'all enjoy the rest of your evening, and again, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, really, really good stuff. How interesting was that?
That was very interesting. I was very intrigued about the portals.
Yeah, I met a lady just today. She emailed me this morning. Lives up on Signal Mountain, not very far from me, and her and her son on the property up there has been having some stuff going on with Bigfoot, and she thinks maybe Dogman. I might be getting to go up there and check that out. But she was talking about she's convinced there's a portal on that property, and that stuff
It's
scares me,
wild.
man.
No doubt. No doubt. Because what
Because
comes
I
out?
really think, I mean, I shouldn't say I really think, but I think it's a good possibility that is what's going on with these missing 411 people.
It's the only thing that really makes any sense.
But does it make sense? Because we're
Well,
talking
I
about
don't.
portals, you
Does
know?
anything make sense? Is it
Really?
because we were told that portals are not real and it's for crazy people all of our lives that we've been brainwashed to believe that it's fictitious?
Yeah. But I
Doesn't-
mean, how else do you explain people going missing in just a short amount of time
Right.
and never, ever, ever being heard from or seen again?
Exactly.
Unless
The
they
only thing that
said
doesn't make sense is like we've talked about before. Okay, so like if they're going through the portals, what is it that is folding all of these clothes nice and neat?
Yeah.
That's the only. I don't know.
Could I be walking in the woods looking for Bigfoot one day and then a portal decided to open up right in front of me and me just step in and no one ever see or hear from me again and no one will ever know? That scares the hell out of me.
Right. That would be very sad, by the way. Don't do that.
I mean, just anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, because you got to think if you're walking in the woods and you're just, normal walking, and all of a sudden you think you're walking where you were and you're really in reality not, and then you're gone.
Naoma says, FaceTime Tiffany, aliens are neat freaks.
Hey, I'll take it.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
Say your goodbyes, Tiffany.
Goodbye, Tiffany. Have a good evening. Thanks for coming. I'll see you Thursday.
We will see y'all just a few hours, Thursday afternoon, 2:00. Everybody, y'all be good to each other. Be good to yourselves, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.